Jasper, are you ready? His eyes lifted from the tired correspondence without much reluctance. I really am, he replied to his sister, who stood framed in the doorway to his father's study. Jasper's study, this past year, to be more accurate, now that he was the Earl of Belhaven. Hell of a position for a second son to end up in. You promised, Helena said, her tone doing much to remind him of all his inadequacies. It wasn't supposed to be like this. His brother Anthony was the heir, Jasper the spare, and they had taken to their roles with vigour. But that was before. The younger sister Isabel stepped around Helena and into view, frowning at him. The expression crinkled her features, so like their mother's that it made Jasper's heart ache. "What did I tell you?" she asked Helena. "It wasn't a promise he ever intended to keep." Jasper leaned back in his father's imposing chair, his bones creaking with the effort of it. Surely a man of 26 should not feel so withered. He could recall lying on the deck of a sun-drenched yacht in the Mediterranean less than 2 years ago, wondering when he might have to face reality and cede to his parents' wishes and carve a place for himself in the world. He hadn't imagined that reality would be thrust upon him so violently. He pinched the bridge of his nose. "What exactly did I promise?" Helena sighed. "It's the 7th of December, their mother's birthday. When she was alive, the Countess of Belhaven had been a famous hostess of the Ton, and each year society had descended on their snowy corner of Surrey in order to celebrate her. It had been a festive few days of sleigh rides and tree trimming and mulled wine. Jasper was quite sure that after last year's tragedy he'd never enjoy frivolity like that again. Helena continued, "I can't bear the thought of letting the day pass unremarked upon. It was her favourite." It took Jasper a moment to remember his hasty promise, uttered in the bitter reaches of the night some weeks ago, when he and his sisters had let their shared grief tether them together, rather than drive them to separate corners of their dark manor. They would visit their mother's grave on her birthday, after their younger sister had gone to bed, so as not to upset her. At the time, Jasper had been making an effort, spurred by the pain he'd witnessed in his sisters' faces. They needed him to be strong, like Anthony had been, but Jasper had lived his life almost fitfully, as second sons were wont to do, until he'd met Annabel, the daughter of the vicar of Rayford. After so much time spent shunning virtue and chasing vice, at last he had stilled, and his world had irrevocably changed. But that was before. Jasper glanced out the window, where snow fell down like a heavy rain. Decidedly not the best time to visit the graves of their parents and brother. Perhaps he could convince them to postpone a day, but then he looked to the stack of letters he had been making his way through, all written by his impatient man of business, and thought a tromp through the frigid sludge would be preferable. "Let me get my coat,"